Today is Friday, April 17th, 2026. Welcome to This Week in Natural Refrigerants News, where we recap the top stories on naturalrefrigerants.com. This podcast is generated and read by artificial intelligence and may contain errors. We're your hosts, AT and MO, and the articles for today's podcast were organized by naturalrefrigerants.com's managing editor and written by its writers. You can find links to each article in the show notes. Yeah, so we've got a lot of ground to cover today looking at the latest shifts in hardware and global regulations.
Right. And think about trying to hoist a massive cooling unit, something the size of a school bus, all the way up onto the roof of the Burj Khalifa.
Oh, man, that sounds like an absolute nightmare, honestly.
Exactly. But that exact visual actually comes from Alexey Pazhakov over at Refra. He brought it up during their MCE 2026 launch.
Oh, right, for the new Oasis line.
Yeah.
Yep, the Oasis Standard R290 water-to-water heat pump and chiller line. And it hits up to 516 kilowatts for heating and like 410 for cooling. So Pazhakov's whole point was, instead of fighting to put these huge, heavy air-cooled units on skyscraper roofs, we should just put water-cooled units inside.
Which, logistically makes perfect sense. But putting that much propane indoors immediately brings up safety, right?
Yeah, obviously, you can't just drop it in without precautions.
Exactly. So Refri handles this with really strict EN 378 compliance. They put the refrigerant-containing parts inside Class 4 enclosures that are kept under a slight negative pressure.
Oh, wow, so it's actively managing the airflow.
Right. And if a sensor detects a leak, this automated system instantly shuts down any non-ATEX components. So, standard electronics that might spark are just killed immediately while ventilation extracts the gas.
Okay, but wait, look at all that specialized hardware. You've got negative pressure rooms, sensors, automated venting. Doesn't all that complex engineering price propane systems completely out of viability for the residential market?
You would definitely think so, but the data is telling a completely different story. So yeah, right now R290 systems carry maybe a 10 to 15% cost premium.
Which is a pretty decent chunk of change for a homeowner.
It is, but manufacturing volumes are scaling up so incredibly fast that the premium is about to just disappear. Look at the new heat pump watch data. R290 actually captured 38% of new EU residential heat pump certifications in 2024.
Wait, 38%? Wasn't it sitting at like 3% back in 2017?
Yeah, just 3%. It's a massive market shift across the continent. F-gas limits and the looming PFAS restrictions on HFOs are basically forcing the transition.
That makes a lot of sense. So while R290 is really dominating the heat pump transition, on the commercial retail side, we're seeing some huge physical leaps in CO2 applications. Like over at Euroshop 2026, Freer rolled out their energy line.
Right, and the efficiency numbers on those are wild. They're delivering up to 50% efficiency gains for centralized CO2 models, with the average being around 15%.
Yeah. And what's fascinating is how they're pulling that off. It's not some magical refrigeration cycle tweak. It's just physical hardware optimization.
Just better cabinets, basically.
Basically, yeah. They've improved the evaporation coils and heavily upgraded the glass wall insulation. They even manufacture their own glass components in-house now. So they've engineered these cabinets to keep the cold air exactly where it belongs.
Which obviously takes a ton of the workload off the system itself.
Absolutely. And when you scale up to massive industrial applications, the bottleneck isn't just energy efficiency anymore.
Right, it's the build time, how fast you can physically construct those massive pipe networks.
Exactly. Which brings us to the Hill Phoenix Advancer Ultra Industrial CO2 rack platform. They are really pushing to optimize lead times and build costs.
Yeah, because they're moving away from that traditional engineered-to-order approach.
Right. They've built a standardized platform that covers like 95% of market requirements now. And that standardization is so crucial when you look at the 74% year-over-year growth for transcritical CO2 in North America.
You literally can't keep up with that growth if every single rack is custom. So the manufacturing updates they're doing are actually brilliant in their simplicity.
Oh, you mean the pulled holes?
Yeah, instead of cutting pipes and doing these complex 3-weld T-joints, they use pre-bent pipes and just punch and pull a hole right out of a continuous pipe to attach the branch.
Which literally cuts the labor and the leak risk down to a single weld. Fewer welds just means fewer points of failure.
Exactly. And all of these mature technologies, the standardized platforms, the high-efficiency designs, they serve as vital blueprints for nations drafting new regulations right now.
Right, like over in Chile. Their Ministry of the Environment just put out a public call for information to develop a new HFC emission standard. The deadline for that is May 16th, 2026.
And Chile already has a really strong baseline for this transition. They really don't have to start from scratch.
No, they can just look locally.
Right. At Cinco said 17 transcritical CO2 retail stores, or Marine Farm's 2-megawatt ammonia refrigeration system.
Yeah, having those proven systems already on the ground makes a huge difference. It definitely makes you wonder if emerging markets might just bypass the HFC phase down entirely and skip straight to the finish line.
Definitely something for you to keep an eye on moving forward.
This is AT and MO, and this has been the Week in Natural Refrigerant News.